Hey everybody, what's up? I thought I'd just do this for a little bit and kind of get my mind off something. I've thought about this and I figured, what? I don't talk much about college football or anything. I only talk about the conference. I only talked about the conference realignments a couple of times last year or something, or this year. And you can see right there, it says teams that I think won't. It says teams that won't last in their new conferences, and what that means is there are teams that have basically struggled in the new conferences and within the first year and so on. And I'm not talking about the smaller conferences because obviously a small conference is like the first step for an FCS team into the FBS, if you will. No, what I'm talking about is mainly, going from one major conference to another. You see, Temple is a good example of a team that went from major to mid-major and back to major. They went from Big East to MAC and back to Big East. So that's understandable. They took a step back to improve. They did. They finally got decided, hey, let's go back. And maybe it was also the fact that the schooling, the attendance was down too. I don't know. But then you take a look at teams like Missouri, Colorado, Texas A&M, Nebraska. They've all moved on. Utah, they've all moved on to bigger conferences. Now, Utah is understandable. They've gone from mid-major to major. That's understanding. But is it truly worth the move? Well, Texas A&M, I forgot to mention them, seems to fit more into the mold of being able to adjust better than certain other teams. You see, Texas A&M, I think some people forget, was a Southwestern team before they became Big 12, and now they're SEC. So for them to be SEC, to adjust to this style of play, it's easier. For Missouri, well, they were so used to Big 12 play and sort of being a dominant force there, they come into the SEC where you got more teams you got to play against in a different style of play, against different opponents and schools. Even though it's the first year, I feel that if Missouri doesn't step up within the next year or so, they're going to probably decide, you know what, maybe in the next few years, I should say, they're going to decide, you know what, let's go back to the Big 12. We had an easier time there. We weren't so thrown off. Let's go back. And true, they'll have a bit of a different opponents when it comes to two new opponents when it comes to West Virginia and TCU. But it's more along the lines of, I think a school like Missouri is going to start realizing they need to go back. And the same with Colorado. Colorado, even though they never did so well in the last year or so with the Big 12, I've got a feeling it's going to realize the same thing, and they're going to end up going back as well. As far as Nebraska and Texas A&M and Utah, they're the kind of, and Temple, they are the kind of teams right now that definitely are mainstays. They're going to be mainstays where they belong, unless other schools from the conferences, like let's say the Big Ten, say, you know what, Nebraska's too dominant. We don't like these guys here. Get them out of here. But I don't think that's going to happen. Nebraska, Utah, Temple, and Texas A&M, I think, are going to become mainstays. The ones that I've mentioned, like Missouri and Colorado, they're going to be the ones that are going to be the deciding factor that if they don't improve in the next year or two, they're going to end up going back to the conference they made a name for themselves in. That's what I feel is going to happen. And I'm not trying to say that out of the fact that I want to see that happen, that I want to see the Missouri-KU rivalry happen again. No. It's more along the lines of, I think for their betterment, as programs, as school programs, it's going to help them. I just feel it is. I mean, you got this whole situation next year with Boise and San Diego State and Houston, I think, and whoever else, maybe Houston, I'm not really sure, going to the Big East. And San Diego State's on the West Coast, and they're going to be in the Big East. And Boise State's sort of on the West Coast, on the northwestern coast, and they're gonna, or near it, if you will, and they're going to the Big East. Doesn't make sense, alignment wise, or state wise, or country alignment wise, or region wise, or geographic wise. But hey, money talks. They go, and this is a big opportunity. And it's probably the best opportunity that schools like them have to get to like those BCS games. But again, the point I'm trying to make is this. That happens next year. And if it's a great step for them, it's a great step for them. If it's not, it's not. But whatever happens, I feel Colorado, Missouri, and maybe a few other schools down the line, maybe those that join the Big East or not, are all going to end up probably rethinking the conference alignment, the new conference memberships, and say, you know what, maybe it's time for us to go back to our old conferences and readjust before we decide to move on again. So, but that's just my thoughts on it. What do you guys think? Tell me what you think, and if you agree or not with what I said, and I'll talk to y'all later.